The fourth-generation Chevrolet Camaro was a true icon of the late 90s and early 2000s. Launched in 1993, it was a radical departure from its predecessors, sporting a sleek, aerodynamic design that screamed modernity. Under the hood, the base models started with a 3.4-liter V6, but the real heart of the Camaro was the legendary small-block V8. Initially, it was the LT1 5.7-liter V8, churning out around 275 horsepower, which was respectable for its time. Later, the even more potent LS1 V8 arrived in 1998, boosting power to over 300 horsepower and transforming the Camaro into a serious performance machine. The figures were impressive, with LS1 models capable of doing 0 to 60 sprints in the low 5-second range, numbers that could still turn heads today. Market reception was initially strong, fueled by the excitement of a new Camaro, but sales did fluctuate throughout its production run. It faced stiff competition, most notably from its arch-rival, the Ford Mustang, which also underwent a major redesign around the same time. Other competitors included cars like the Pontiac Firebird and even some Japanese sports coupes like the Nissan 300ZX and Mazda RX-7, although these catered to a slightly different market segment. It represented a bridge between the classic muscle car era and the modern performance age. While it might not have the outright aggression of its ancestors, it offered a compelling blend of style, performance, and technology for its time. Produced from 1994 to 2004, it came at a time when muscle car enthusiasm was rekindling, and it was a significant departure from the Fox body Mustangs that preceded it. The base models initially featured a 3.8-liter V6 engine, while the GT models boasted the 5-liter pushrod V8, carried over from the Fox body era, initially producing around 215 horsepower. Later, in 1996, Ford transitioned to the more modern 4.6-liter modular V8 for the GT, which offered more refinement. Performance figures were respectable for the time, with 0 to 60 times hovering around the mid-6-second range for the GT. Not blistering by today's standards, but certainly enough to put a smile on your face. Market reception was a bit of a mixed bag. On one hand, it was a sales success for Ford, proving there was still a strong appetite for the Mustang. However, some purists criticized it for being too soft, too refined, and not as raw or visceral as previous generations. Comparisons to its rivals, particularly the Chevrolet Camaro and Pontiac Firebird twins, were inevitable, with their more powerful V8s and arguably more aggressive styling. This Mustang was more of a bridge between the classic muscle car era and the modern performance landscape. It might not be as revered as the 60s Mustangs or as technologically advanced as the current models, but it represents a crucial step in the Mustang's evolution. After a near-decade-long hiatus, the Impala nameplate roared back in 1994, not as the fuel-sipping downsized sedan of the late 70s and 80s, but as a full-fledged rear-wheel-drive, body-on-frame muscle sedan. Under the hood was that magnificent 5.7-liter LT1 V8 engine, churning out a respectable 260 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque, capable of propelling this near 4,000-pound sedan to 60 miles per hour in around 7 seconds, numbers that were genuinely impressive for a full-size car of that era. Chevrolet wisely equipped the Impala SS with performance enhancements like a sport-tuned suspension, 4-wheel disc brakes, and a high-capacity cooling system, ensuring it could handle the power and deliver a driving experience that was more than just straight-line speed. It tapped into a yearning for classic American muscle, offering a unique blend of performance and full-size practicality at a time when SUVs were gaining immense popularity. Sadly, production was short-lived, ending in 1996, making it a relatively rare and highly sought-after modern classic today. It represented a bold move by Chevrolet, a nostalgic nod to the golden age of muscle cars delivered in a practical 4-door package. It's a car that stands out for its understated aggression, its powerful V8 rumble, and its ability to offer genuine performance in a segment that was increasingly moving towards front-wheel drive and smaller engines. The Corvette C5 was a true icon of American sports car engineering, and it burst onto the scene in 1997. Gone were the dated styling and some of the C4's quirks, replaced by a sleek, modern design that was both aerodynamically efficient and visually stunning. At the heart of the C5 was the all-new LS1 V8 engine, a masterpiece of General Motors engineering. This 5.7-liter power plant, initially producing 345 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque, was a game-changer. Its lightweight aluminum construction, coupled with advanced electronic fuel injection, delivered exhilarating performance and surprising fuel efficiency for a sports car. It could do 0 to 60 sprints in the low 5-second range with a top speed of 175 miles per hour, making it a serious contender against European rivals. Its new hydroformed box-frame chassis was significantly stiffer than the C4's, providing a solid foundation for the fully independent suspension. This resulted in sharper cornering, improved ride quality, and a more refined driving experience overall. In the market, the C5 was a resounding success. It revitalized the brand and set the stage for even greater Corvettes to come. It truly bridged the gap between raw power and modern sports car sophistication, proving that American performance cars could compete with the best in the world. It arrived on the scene in 1996, marking a significant evolution in the story of the Taurus SHO, a car that had already carved a niche for itself as a sleeper sedan. It boasted an aluminum 3.4-liter V8 engine. This wasn't just any V8, it was a high-revving 32-valve marvel and produced a healthy 235 horsepower and 230 pound-feet of torque. The engine was specifically designed for the SHO and was quite different from Ford's modular V8s of the time, emphasizing its performance-oriented nature. It could sprint from 0 to 60 in around 7 seconds, placing it in the same ballpark as rivals like the Pontiac Grand Prix GTP and Buick Regal GS. It also featured a sport-tuned suspension, stiffer springs, and larger stabilizer bars, which helped to improve cornering and reduce body roll. Market reception was somewhat mixed. On one hand, the V8 engine was a major talking point and a unique selling proposition. Car magazines of the era praised the engine's smoothness and sound, and the car's comfortable yet sporty character. However, some criticized the lack of a manual transmission and felt that the automatic somewhat dulled the V8's sporty edge. Yes, a manual transmission would have been fantastic, and yes, the styling was, well, of its time. But underneath, this third-gen SHO was a capable performance sedan that deserves to be remembered fondly. It was the dawn of the 90s, and while other sports cars were getting sophisticated and tech-heavy, Chrysler, in a stroke of genius bordering on madness, decided to unleash this beast. The Viper was conceived as a raw, visceral machine focused purely on driving pleasure. Underneath that dramatically long hood was a monstrous 8-liter V10 engine, initially designed for trucks, but repurposed to deliver a staggering 400 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. Performance figures were nothing short of breathtaking for its time, sprinting from 0 to 60 in around 4.5 seconds and devouring the quarter mile in the low 13-second range. What made the first-gen Viper truly special, however, was its analog nature. It was deliberately devoid of electronic driver aids like traction control or anti-lock brakes in its initial years, demanding respect and skill from anyone daring enough to get behind the wheel. This rawness, this unfiltered connection to the machine, was both its charm and its challenge. It wasn't trying to be a comfortable grand tour. It was a statement, a rebellion against the increasingly sanitized world of sports cars. The Viper wasn't about lap times or technological wizardry. It was about the thrill of the drive, the roar of the V10, and the sheer, unadulterated joy of piloting something so unapologetically powerful.